Did you know that 46% of Americans say they believe in ghosts? As Halloween looms, the only thing more spooky is having a Friday the 13th in the same month, and we are treated to one in 2023. It's a double scary scenario, which is actually quite rare since October keeps Jason Voorhees in the closet mostly, seeing the least Friday the 13th of any other month occurring only about every 11 years. While kids get dressed up and threaten to trick unless treated, there are places throughout the US that are spooky year-round. This list covers the 10 most mysterious and haunted places around the US. From New Orleans to a gravity-defying illusion in South Dakota, you won't want to miss this list. Number 10 is Alcatraz. This prison island that sits off the coast of San Francisco and is often regarded as the most haunted place in America. It has been called the Island of Evil Spirits, which is no surprise given its history. The prison has been closed since 1963 and has served as a tourist attraction ever since. In its heyday, the prison has housed some of the worst and most notorious prisoners like Al Capone. The prison was so fortified that there have only been 14 escape attempts, with 3 infamous prisoners never being apprehended. It's assumed that they drowned in the freezing cold San Francisco Bay, but no bodies have ever been found. The most haunted cell is the infamous cell 14D, where prisoners spent the night screaming in hysterics that a creature was going to kill him. The next morning, he was found strangled to death on the floor of his cell. Those who tour the prison say that they feel a cold chill and can hear faint screams when entering cell 14D. Those on tour also experience cell blocks A, B, and C, where many have said that they can hear moaning and crying coming from these areas. One of the most famous ghosts is the Butcher. The Butcher was a hitman who was killed by another prisoner in the laundry room, and his ghost has been a presence ever since. Number 9 is St. Augustine, Florida. America's oldest city is also the most haunted. St. Augustine is so haunted that there's an entire industry dedicated to touring all the haunted hotspots, including a haunted pub crawl where you can visit all the pubs that leave a sinister feel. Casa de Sueños is probably the spookiest bed and breakfast in the country, which is no surprise given that it used to be a working funeral home. Guests have reported seeing ghostly apparitions, and some have claimed to see objects move around in their rooms. St. Francis Inn, the oldest inn in St. Augustine, built in 1791, has had more than its share of ghost sightings. One of the most haunting stories is the story of forbidden love. An enslaved girl was beaten to death when it was discovered that she was having an affair with the innkeeper's nephew. The nephew was so distraught by her death that he committed suicide. It's said that their spirits still wander the grounds. The Old Jail Museum offers a very unique tour where guests can participate in a paranormal investigation as they try to find the spirits of prisoners past. The jail was open from 1891 to 1953. Notorious for its deplorable living conditions, this was the site of many hangings and mysterious deaths. The place is so haunted that tour guides have special equipment designed to connect with those from beyond the grave. Number 8 is the Alamo in San Antonio, Texas. After St. Augustine, San Antonio is one of the oldest cities, which means there are hundreds of years worth of hauntings. The Alamo is the site of the famous battle between Mexican and Texan troops that claimed the life of Davy Crockett. The Texas soldiers were outnumbered 1,500 to 189. The Battle of the Alamo in 1836 took the lives of all 189 Texans, but they fought to the death to protect Texas. The site has seen mass death, and some still claim to see the spirits of soldiers patrolling the roof, as well as hearing captured prisoners moaning. All the dead from the Battle of the Alamo were burned, then thrown into the San Antonio River, and finally buried in mass graves, so it's no surprise that a location with such a violent history is now home to such a ghostly presence. Visitors to the Alamo can take the traditional historical tour, or for the more adventurous, they can take a ghost tour at night where many claim to feel the presence of those that came before. And the hauntings aren't a new phenomenon. The Mexican soldiers that defeated the Texans were going to tear the structure down, but stopped short when they heard claims that Christian monks were materializing from the walls wielding flaming swords. Needless to say, the structure was never torn down. Some of the most intense hauntings happened in the decades after the battle, but the spirits still linger today. Number 7 is the Cosmos Mystery Area in Rapid City, South Dakota. This one is beyond weird. Many try to write it off as an optical illusion, but even the biggest skeptic can't help but feel the pulse of something strange. The house is said to be built on a bizarre piece of land where the laws of gravity do not apply. In 1952, 2 college students were searching the Black Hills looking for the perfect spot to build a summer cabin. It was then that they stumbled into the mysterious world of the cosmos. Balls roll uphill, water flows back up, and in several of the rooms you can lean far forward or backwards without falling down. Guests are given a tour of the house and can feel immense pressure the moment they step foot on the property. This is not for the faint of heart, or those who get motion sickness. When there, you can take an active role in the paranormal. 2 volunteers from the group, one very tall and one very short, are asked to stand facing each other. One is clearly taller. However, when they switch places, the shorter person appears taller. Those who have volunteered can't explain how their own height appears to change. In the room where you can lean without falling, they even will take a child volunteer, have them climb up onto a ledge and lean forward without falling. Whether it's just an optical illusion or something otherworldly, it certainly earns its spot on this list. Speaking of otherworldly, number 6 on this list is Area 51 in the desert of Nevada. There is single-handedly no other place that harbors quite as much mystery. Whether the government is actually hiding aliens or not, something secretive is going on, and that is why Area 51 lands on this list. Good luck getting to Area 51. When passing it on a long, lonely desert road, you can do just that. Pass it. You can't stop, can't pass go, can't collect $200. The site is heavily fortified by the US military, which only heightens the intrigue. Area 51 is a highly classified United States Air Force USAF facility within the Nevada Test and Training Range. The perimeter of the base is marked by orange posts and patrolled by guards in white pickup trucks and camouflage fatigues. The guards will not answer questions about their employers or anything inside. Even they have never been inside. The site is probably home to the most conspiracy theories of any other site in the US. Such conspiracies, or theories as many would say, include secret testing on downed alien craft, biological testing on alien life, and experimentation with time travel. Back in 2019, a Facebook user set up an event called Storm Area 51, where it was ironically suggesting that users storm Area 51 on September 20th, 2019. Over 2 million people replied going, but on the day of the event, only 150 actually showed up. Though this was meant to be an ironic, trollish post, many had secret hopes of finally uncovering the mysteries of Area 51. Number 5 is New Orleans, Louisiana. This city is home to the French Quarter and offers haunted tours of many of its historic sites. While Alcatraz may be the most haunted location, New Orleans takes the cake for the most haunted city. Famous for its practitioners of the mystical arts, from voodoo queens to professed vampires and Wiccans, New Orleans lands its spot on this list. The Lalaurie Mansion is one of the city's most paranormal places. One of the ghosts you may encounter at the mansion is Madame Delphine Lalaurie, a socialite and serial killer. Fans of American Horror Story may remember her portrayal by Kathy Bates in the show's 3rd season. The mansion once hosted parties for the rich, but now hosts only the ghosts of those tortured and killed by Madame Lalaurie. Head to Bourbon Street and check out Lafitte's Blacksmith Shop Bar, named for the infamous pirate Jean Lafitte. The oldest building in the French Quarter and one of America's oldest operating bars, many have claimed to feel an eerie presence when entering. A cemetery may not be on the top of the tourism list for most cities, but in New Orleans, a visit to St. Louis Cemetery 1 is a must. It's the legendary gravesite of the iconic voodoo queen Mary Laveau. A free woman of color, Laveau worked as a hairdresser for many affluent residents, and she used that knowledge to leverage her status and influence in the city. Rumor has it Laveau's spirit still grants wishes to those who perform a specific ritual at her grave, so check it out. Lastly, there is a far more recent and sobering set of ghosts. Many believe the spirits of the nearly 2,000 people who died in Hurricane Katrina still haunt the city streets. Number 4 should be no surprise since the city has only one reputation: witches. That's right, Salem, Massachusetts claims its spot at number 4 on this list. Many know the story of the Salem witch trials. In 1692 and 1693, hysteria overtook the town and it resulted in 19 people, 14 women and 5 men, being executed on charges of being witches. There are so many places to visit in Salem with a direct connection to the trials, including Proctor's Ledge, where the hangings actually occurred. There's the Witch House, which is the only structure still standing from the 1690s. The Howard Street Cemetery is one of Salem's most famous haunted cemeteries. It's the site where Giles Corey was pressed to death under increasing stones as he refused to acknowledge guilt in being a witch. It should come as no surprise that this cemetery is said to be haunted. The Old Salem Jail is another place that those with the eyes for the paranormal would enjoy. Most visitors, believers, and skeptics alike can't help but feel an ominous presence when in the jail. They say that there is no house in Salem more haunted than the Turner Ingersoll, better known to many as the House of the Seven Gables. Nathaniel Hawthorne, famous writer of The Crucible, a play about the witch trials, wrote a novel about the house. Unfortunately, it has been deemed to hold the Hawthorne curse ever since, given that Hawthorne's own grandfather was the judge in the witch trials. Many a fortune had been made and lost in that home, and the spirits never left. Number 3 is Marfa, Texas. Home to the famous Marfa lights, this place definitely contains something otherworldly. Since the 1800s, people have been reporting strange lights in the distance. They have certainly become famous as visitors are convinced that they are a paranormal phenomenon such as ghosts or UFOs. Scientific research suggests that most, if not all, are atmospheric reflections, car headlights, or campfires, but anyone who has seen them may beg to differ. Marfa is in a remote corner of West Texas, surrounded by sprawling desert reminiscent of Area 51. The first record of the Marfa lights was back in 1883 when Robert Reed Ellison, a young rancher, saw a flickering light while he was driving cattle through Paisano Pass. He initially assumed that it was the campfire of Apache Indians. Other settlers told him they often saw the lights, but that when they investigated, they found no ashes or other evidence of a campsite. The lights have been a phenomenon ever since. Many argue that if it is just atmospheric reflections, car headlights, or campfires as the scientists suggest, then why do they only seem to appear in Marfa? Whether they are natural or otherworldly, come during the annual Marfa Lights Festival and see for yourself. Number 2 is not a place you may find yourself by happenstance, but it is nonetheless a mysterious location. The Alaska Vortex, or Alaska Triangle, is the number 2 mystery on this list. People have been vanishing here at an alarmingly high rate. The Alaskan Triangle is an area between Utqiagvik, Anchorage, and Juneau. It is a stretch of vast boreal forests, barren tundra, and icy mountain peaks. In the past 40 years, people have gone missing here at a rate 2 times the national average. Hundreds of coordinated search and rescue missions happen every year to find missing residents, hikers, and tourists, but few are ever found. It's not just people on foot. The vortex has also claimed many airplanes, much like the infamous Bermuda Triangle. The most notorious disappearance came in 1950. One of the nation's largest disappearances of military aircraft and personnel occurred in the Alaska Vortex. A C-54 Skymaster, carrying 36 passengers and 8 crew members, left Anchorage at 1 p.m. on January 26, 1950. The plane made a routine radio call 2 hours later as it flew over a small town in Yukon. It was the last anyone would ever hear from the plane or anyone on it. A search effort with US and Canadian planes, along with thousands of volunteers on foot, set out to find the plane, but no wreckage was ever found and 42 people vanished. In 1972, Congressman Hale Boggs' private aircraft disappeared without a trace in the Triangle, and after an extensive search, nothing was ever found. Before we get to number 1, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date when we drop new videos. Number 1 is probably one of the most gruesome and unsettling stories tucked away in American history. It was a story of survival that turned so dark, many prefer to deny its reality. Number 1 on this list is Donner Memorial State Park in Truckee, California. In November of 1846, the Donner Party took a shortcut on their way from Illinois to California in pursuit of riches during the gold rush. 5 months later, in the spring of 1847, half of their party, about 41 people, had either frozen or starved to death. The winter that year had been particularly harsh, with record snows reaching 22 feet. The ones who survived tried only eating the minimal provisions they had with them, then eating animal hides, and finally, when all that ran out, they were left with no choice: cannibalism, one of the greatest taboos. The survivors had no choice but to eat their dead loved ones. The party was eventually rescued, and the 46 survivors were never able to fully reconcile their actions. The Donner name is found all across the Sierra Nevada, like Donner Pass and Donner Lake, but a visit to the park is a sobering reminder of the gruesome events that took place over 175 years ago. Visitors to the park say the ghosts of the eaten still walk the grounds. Do you live near a mysterious or haunted place? Or have you traveled somewhere that seemed to be otherworldly? Let us know in the comments below.